It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Yay, the gang's all here.
Yay.
Finally.
Well, we're here, but are we really here?
Oh, we're not even going that route. Nope.
Well, I'm here, you're there.
Think of the children. We ain't gonna do that.
I hope everybody out there is doing okay. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Oh, man.
Sniffle, sniffle, nothing.
Yeah.
My galaxy exploded. What about y'all's?
It's the sniffles.
Yeah, I'm getting better though. That's the main point.
Not quite dead yet.
Right. But in my downtime, my forced downtime that I had, I did get a chance to watch the Batman. I think I warned y'all last week that I probably wouldn't be talking about this.
You warned us last night.
That was last night. That was not last week.
I warned on the
That's a long-ass day.
when I said that it was coming out on HBO, so...
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
Yep, I did warn them. Yep. I don't know how to say this without people thinking that I'm hating on this. I liked it. I did.
Because that's the first thing I knew you were going to say when you didn't like it was, I liked it.
I liked it, but...
I liked it, but I didn't like it.
There was parts that I had issues with, and it sometimes it was just kind of like, the story's good. Anytime you jump out of Batman's normal rogue, it's good. I think that they really used Riddler in a way I've never seen him before. He definitely wasn't funny. I mean, that was like, whoa. It was dark, and I don't know if when Batman first hit the theaters, I blocked it on my computer. I didn't want to see reviews. I didn't want to see spoilers. So I don't know what the general consensus of Batman is right now. I know it's doing well in the box office. Of course, you can't block that, you know. But this is a darker Batman. And I think with the darker story that they took, which, like I said, I absolutely loved it because it kind of gets into Maroni and the Carlino family, which kind of lets you know what made these guys such bad guys. Because I haven't read every Batman. But when I got into Batman, they kind of were established people, and it was kind of like you just knew they were mom people, and mom people are bad people, you know. So I didn't really know the whole backstory and especially why these two people like hated each other's guts. So this movie definitely shows you that, which was, like I said, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved what they did with Riddler. Then you get to Batman. And that's where it really pulled me out of this story, because there's times when Batman, the Batman, would come in and be like, "Rah!" you know, and bump some heads together and create a ruckus. This Batman is so quiet. I mean, I watched it with Brandon. He probably hates watching movies with me. I kept having to adjust the volume on my TV because you couldn't hear him. I don't know if that's a audio issue they have with the movie or what, but he's very soft, and to me, Batman's not soft. I mean, it's I don't know. Like I said, there was something about him that the acting was good. The like I said, the way they had him, the storyline and everything else. There was just times where I feel like he could have pumped it up 10 and been good. Just kind of. But this Batman kind of seems kind of meek and quiet and kind of scared to step on toes, and I don't know. I maybe the second one that he'll kind of feel into the part a little better. I just felt that with this story, if it would have been maybe somebody not him, it would have been better. And this is someone who I like Pattinson. I do. But when I think of his other parts, he's not a guy that's, rah, he is kind of quiet and he is kind of, but you almost get, like he's going to, excuse me, Mr. Riddler, don't do that. And that's not Batman, I did love that Alfred was in this story, but Batman wasn't dependent on Alfred in this story. Alfred played a big part in it, but it wasn't. Some of the movies, it's almost like Alfred spoon feeds him. This is what you need to know. This is what you need to do. Go, go, go. This wasn't that Alfred. Batman's finding out about secrets, and, you kind of see some cracks in Alfred, which is cool because he's human and you should see that, and it was nice to see the relationship other than you got to go here, you got to do this, of one of I love you and this is why I took care of you and why I protected you and, I've been your dad all this time. So I liked that too. So I don't want people to think I hated the movie. I didn't. But like I said, I just felt like Pattinson maybe needs to step up just a little, and they really need to pad that suit a little more too, because Batman in skinny jeans didn't work for me either. At one point he turns and I swear to God, you can't see his legs. I mean, it's like, where did he go? He doesn't need a cake because he's just going to fly away. And it's not, it's once again, it's a Pattinson, he is a smaller framed guy. Now, they did have parts where he did take his shirt off, and he's a small framed guy, but he's buff. I mean, he is buff in this movie, but, you can only, so I'm not body shaming either. I'm not that, because like I said, he's got a very beautiful body. It's just not a Batman body, But in saying that, this is a year 2 Batman. This is a Batman who's still figuring out how to do shit, so maybe that's why I'm picking up on a little meekness from him, a little timidness from him that wouldn't be there. So yeah, different kind of Batman.
Les, I want your opinion because I know you've seen the movie.
To me, it was most enjoyable to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It did not have some flaws that had been prior. Read Joel Schumacher. I thought it was fun. It was action from the word go.
Mm-hmm.
But Pattinson is not a loud person to begin with.
Yeah.
So his demeanor, I didn't have a problem with. I could understand why the character was so quiet. And what can I say? It was just one of those. It was a popcorn movie.
Mm-hmm. It was
but
long.
It had a lot to say. So.
And just when you thought the movie was wrapping up, the whole freaking city explodes, and you're like, what? Wait, what? So, I mean, I love the story. I did, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to get used to a year two Batman. You know, I'm sure he didn't start off like he was, but I don't know.
So what I'm hearing is that both of you want a little less emo in Pattinson's playlist and a little more death metal.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I mean, it's funny because, I mean, I've not seen the movie, but I've seen a lot of responses to it and some in-depth discussion about it. You're the first person I've heard anyone say anything regarding the quietness of them and how that was unfair. I've seen no one mention that. That's kind of strange. So apparently, I mean,
Strange comes out this month.
Yeah, I know. But I just kind of find that interesting. I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, it's your opinion, and that's fine. But it's just kind of funny that I have not seen that in this amount of time that it's been out, that anyone's said anything either one way or the other.
Right.
So,
well, not to pick a fight about it, but I don't remember Keaton being particularly loud.
He wasn't as loud.
I don't remember Adam West being particularly loud, and that was a totally different take.
No, but both of those people had, this is going to sound horrible, both of those people had a personality that made a presence, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does.
With this one, especially since we're not kind of sure of Batman's footing on this, I didn't really pick up on the presence that Batman should have. Okay. The one that strikes fear and vengeance. I didn't really get that from this Batman.
I get it now. Okay, so you don't necessarily mean loud. You just mean, okay. That makes more sense to me. Defining it as presence makes it make sense to me. It's not necessarily a loud thing. It's more a personality thing. It's more just okay. I'm with you now. That's a different story.
I also loved how GCPD was like friends with Batman. And it's kind of, I mean, when the movie first started, I don't know if any of you guys have ever played like the Batman Arkham games.
Yeah.
It does a lot of detective stuff. And the way the movie starts, I mean, it gave me chills. And that's the first thing I asked Brandon. I said, doesn't this kind of read like the video game? The way they panned things. When the first scene that they walk into, when Batman's there and he's kind of he's quiet, but he's kind of looking over the scene and picking up on all these clues and everything else. What would have been so awesome is if they would have incorporated the part from the games where it shows where Batman looks at something and it kind of pulls up the bigger picture. And by the end of scanning this room, he kind of puts the whole scene together in his head. And, in the game, of course, you're seeing this first, in his head real time. That would have been so awesome because
You're describing a CSI episode.
Well, this movie read so much like the game, which I enjoy. I mean, I loved it because it did kind of it gave you a chance to look at things before they broke it down and spelled it out for you. This is what you're looking at. This is a dead body on the floor, and this is, oh look, who do you think that letter opener owns? I mean, they kind of let you look along with Batman and kind of see what's happening before everything's spelled out. Here it is. And I love that. Like I said, for me, where I lost it was with Pattinson himself. But the movie was so good that it kind of made up for all of that, you know? I didn't turn it off because of him. Because it was good.
You turned it off because you had to pee after an hour and a half.
3 hours.
Oh, I mean, I'm talking about halfway through.
Right. So it, you know, but like I said, that's the only thing that I saw with it. And I'm not just saying that to be a hater or anything else. I don't care who plays Batman as long as he does good. So I didn't walk in with this wanting to hate him. I think me and Les before had said that, you know, he's done some good indie work. So I was kind of excited to see what he would do with this. And yeah. But with Reeves handling a second one, I think they've announced a second one because HBO Max, when this was released, it smashed every number they had. It beat out Wonder Woman. It's beat out Shall Remain Nameless, and
it's ranked second in most viewings in the first 7 days.
Yep.
It's like, so yeah.
Yep. And I found out with the last movie that came out, so we won't go into names, they said the numbers were good. That wasn't the problem that they had, but the problem that they had is although those numbers were good, all of those numbers wasn't watching the whole movie. With Batman, they're seeing that this is front to end. These people are watching this, you know, so. And like this is different. It's definitely a different take on Batman. There's so much they opened the door for. I could see them very easily getting into the Court of Owls in the next movie. They not exposed, but kind of really showed us a lot of what Thomas Wayne was doing when he died, which has opened a lot of questions for Batman himself, which, like I said, will lead into the Court of Owls and stuff. But I'm very excited to see where they go with this. I hope that he picks another villain that hasn't been so played to death. And Colin Farrell, oh my God. I mean, Jesus Christ. Have y'all seen set pictures of him? If you would have told me, I mean, if I wouldn't have read the article about it, if you would have told me that was him, I would have called you a liar. I mean, if that doesn't win awards at these movie things this year, I'm going to be so freaking shocked because that was amazing.
The makeup artist deserves an Oscar, but, you know, we won't say that on live TV. That'll be before the ceremonies, you know.
Yeah. Because that was...
By the way, that's a shot at the fucking Academy. So
No, really? Shocking.
And hey, I'm right there with you. I think they make the movie. His makeup made that part. I mean, he's a good actor, but that makeup made him Penguin. That was awesome. They nailed it on that. And I liked that they didn't go like the Danny DeVito, more Penguin feature looking kind of villain that, you know, he's actually someone you would want to take serious and not laugh at and get blown away because you laughed at the Penguin. You know, he's...
Well, I mean, you'll see more of him because he's getting his own streaming series, so...
And you know, the way they played him, he was involved in this story, but surprisingly enough, he was not the bad guy in this story. He was just the one that saw an opportunity and I'm going to make my money, you know, which any thug would, you know. So I'm curious where they would take him too. But yeah, like I said, I was impressed. I few complaints, not many. I would watch this again.
Well, even the comics over the years, especially the last, I don't know what you want to say, last 20 years or so, they've moved him away from being a criminal that has these plot schemes that involve around umbrellas and birds and that kind of stuff, to turn him into actually a gun runner and owning a nightclub and that kind of stuff, actually kind of making him a little bit more dimensional and a little bit more interesting and
scary. I mean, in that kind of crime world, you have to make a name for yourself to be taken serious. There's so many cutthroats that you have to stand out, or you're going to stand 10 feet under, So what they showed of him, it's definitely a guy who's not afraid to bust a few heads and definitely to be taken seriously. Nobody's making fun of how he walks,
So that's something that has just evolved in the last couple of decades or so, that someone's finally taken him and making him more of a character instead of a caricature. So
yeah, I like that.
Yep.
And to be on Batman's list, you've got to be some badass shit. He's not going to go after the guy who's robbing a store, or he will if it's in his area, but he's not going out of his way for those thugs, So to get on Batman's list, so I think it'll be cool if he does get a side story to show us what puts him, other than being a drug dealer, what puts him on Batman's list.
You were going to say something, Mike?
Maybe it'll come up in that series.
Series, yeah.
That'll be cool.
Yeah. So if he did do like a Court of Owls kind of thing, who do you think the villains would be for that?
A bunch of owls, I guess.
Right.
The Court of Owls, yeah.
Yeah. Well, but see that the way this kind of happened, that was kind of outside of it. So he'll be finding out about the Court of. I don't think the Court of Owls will be the main story. That'll be something he finds about while he's dealing with something else. Kind of like the deal with his dad in this. He found out about it, but it was while he was dealing with something else,
See, and you could actually string that out for 4 or 5 movies. And then number 6 could be the Court of Owls, the showdown, or however. I'm not super familiar with that story. It's been a long time, but you could build that up for a while.
You could. And not to spoil too much, at the start of this, when the movie got to going, I was about to get really, really upset how they were portraying Thomas Wayne. It was kind of like, really? You're going to go down this path, But the way that they cleaned that up, I was impressed, and it really was like, you almost got me. I see what you did there, So
good.
That's what this movie was really good about doing. So I liked it, but
good.
Yeah.
That's the sign of a good story. You take a character who's honestly 95 years old and make him, and you surprise fans. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And because you have to do it well for it to work. But give him credit even just for trying. The fact that it worked is even better.
And you knew his dad and mom were dead, but they didn't tell that story. And when the movie ended, that's where I looked at Brennan. It was like, holy shit. Is that just a Batman movie that did not give us the death of Batman's parents? Holy shit.
We've gotten it in every iteration. And so it's good. It's actually refreshing to not get. A 3-hour movie without telling that. That's impressive.
Especially an origin story. It's kind of like, wow, And like I said, there was mention, because that's what part of this was, but it wasn't like, what we get every single time. They were walking down the alley.
You have to mention it because it's part of who he is.
Yep.
But you don't have to cram it down our throats for a 17th time now.
Which was kind of why it was upsetting me that they were making Thomas out to be this, So it was kind of like,
But they've done that anyway. They've done it in the comics.
Yeah. Well, and one of the video games too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you saying that reminds me of the story I've told on the podcast before. When Les and I went to go see Batman v Superman, we saw it at the Alamo. And Alamo always has like this pre-game show where there's a bunch of clips or stuff that's somewhat related to the movie. And they did this one thing where they showed there was like at least 9 different versions of showing Thomas and Martha being murdered throughout time, through the cartoons, through the live action, through the video games. I think they showed up like 9, and then we saw it again in Batman v Superman, so there was 10.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, we are familiar with that. We know that.
Right.
They're dead. Yeah.
So
again, the character's been around for 95 years.
Yeah.
We know the story now.
Well, and that's when
even people
the last Hulk movie with what's his face, Ed Norton, when they showed the origin through the credits and said, okay, we've got that out of the way, we can actually concentrate on the story. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that too. Yeah.
Fine, but don't do it every movie. If you're going to do sequels, don't do it every time.
Well, no, I understand that, but I mean, if they feel they have to tell the origin, which I don't, in most cases they don't. We know Kal-El was put in a rocket ship from Krypton before it exploded. We don't need to see that again.
Right.
We don't need to see Tom and Martha be shot down. Some of this we don't need to see. A lot of it we don't need to see. We got that. So yeah.
Right. We don't need to see Anakin and Padme falling in love. We don't need to see that.
Well, we didn't need to see it the first time, but hey.
We didn't.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of cool on the Clone Wars, but
Right, and if that was it, that would be fine.
Until they start reading some of that dialogue, and you go, "Oh shit, this is worse than the Harlequin romance novels." Oh god.
Yeah, the deal is they make a point in the Clone Wars of they're trying to hide it at that point, so they're doing their best not to talk about it, which makes the whole thing a lot better, right?
Yeah.
It's
cute and Anakin, yeah.
Anyway.
So.
Yeah. That's about it.
2 hours later.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah. Well, it's a long movie to talk about,
Right. If I even went into the other stuff I'm watching, yeah. So.
Yeah, there's always next week.
Right. There's a very, very, very famous trial going on right now I'll just say it's interesting. So.
Okay. Look forward to that one next week.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Actually, I there's such a hot split between this that I probably won't.
Okay.
So,
well,
yeah.
it set us up and then knock us down for next week.
Right.
Jesus.
Well, I'm sure the average person knows what I'm talking about. And like I said, if you've heard me talk for any time at all, you already know what team I am. So
okay,
I'll leave it at that.
Edward.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. At one point he was. So yeah.
Anyway.
Mike.
So okay, yeah, I'm going. I'm actually going to fire Liz up with this one, because if she wasn't fired up enough, because I watched a new, brand spanking new documentary. I didn't realize how new it was when I started it on Amazon Prime, and it is called Lucy and Desi. And it just came out a couple of months ago, and it's pretty dang good, really. It does a very nice job of telling their story as people. I mean, obviously, all of the other stuff that they did is part of it because it's part of them. But I thought this documentary did a nice job of focusing on Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz.
Yeah.
And their lives, as opposed to just being about the show. I mean, and it went
or just one moment in their life.
Right, and this went beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about their upbringings, and it talks about how they met, and and it goes all the way till basically the day they died. The days they died. They didn't die the same day. And I thought it was really well done. So it is most assuredly worth checking out.
I did enjoy that one.
Cool.
So I think it painted a better picture than some of the others that have come out.
Yep. It was very nice. They had conversations with people they knew, their friends, the kind of people who looked up to her and looked up to both of them. And yeah, it was really nice. It was really nice.
Because it was a documentary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Versus
a
actors.
biopic, right? I think for my money, you get a lot more out of a documentary than out of a biopic. Biopics don't generally sit right with me.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few exceptions. There are some really good ones out there, but I generally don't find them because I avoid biopics.
And yesterday was actually her death anniversary. And it's crazy because I always, on the news, they said that it was Carol Burnett's birthday. And as soon as they did, it was like, oh, today's the day Lucy died. So, kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she said that the day that she died, she was just heard the news, and then she gets a delivery of flowers, and it's from Lucy for her birthday. And she's like, she never forgot my birthday. And even the day she died, she still didn't forget my birthday.
Yeah, she had probably set it up a couple of days beforehand. So,
right.
Yeah.
Funky timing for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of I'm okay, You're okay.
Yep.
Alrighty. Les?
About the only thing for me was the new series on Amazon Prime. Outer Ridge?
Outer Range?
No, Outer Rim would be a Godzilla movie.
Outer Limits? What?
I thought it was called Outer Range.
Outer Range, yeah.
Yeah. Phil started watching that one. They said it's... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to recommend it because it is weird. It's one of those that you go, what the hell did I just watch? But it is, if you stick with it, it's really interesting. So that's my recommendation of the day. And please take it to task, watch it, enjoy it. It's science fiction. It's all over the place. And every minute of it is phenomenal. So, yeah, try that one out.
Cool.
Okay.
Phil said it's really good. He watches Yellowstone in 1883, and someone had told him, hey, if you like that, you'd really like this, but it's like freaking fucked up. So he was watching it the other night. That's what he told me. He was like, I don't know how to describe this. It's good, but it's, So I'll second that. Because Phil doesn't like a lot.
Thank you.
You've been validated there, Les.
Yeah. You got the Phil thumbs up.
Which finger was that again?
Right.
Yeah.
The thumb.
And where?
Yeah, up where? You using the whole fist there, Doc?
Did y'all see what I did?
No.
Okay. I didn't do nothing.
Huh?
Yeah, right.
Nothing.
It's not very often we get a Fletch reference in here, but hey, we did it today. Woo-hoo. You know, for me, I hate to say it, but not really much on my end. I've actually been working on stuff for the podcast pretty much, so not really a lot of fun stuff, but hopefully that will change for next week.
Podcast isn't fun. Gosh, no.
So, hate to bring everybody down after everybody else. So, but oh well. I have to do something in the podcast. So, there we go.
Somebody's got to keep this shit going, right?
Because we all know he does like nothing for the podcast, right? I mean, I think you're the one that does most of the stuff for the podcast, right? You and Mikey?
For the most part, I would say Tom takes care of the front end and I take care of the back end. I'm not sure which of us has the better deal, but... Uh-huh.
Depends on what day it is, you know.
And how much...
if it's toward the end of the week, I probably have the better end of the deal, but, you know, whatever. Anyway. Before we get into this week's discussion, I do want to point out that I don't think we even mentioned it so far, but we do have a Discord. It's been up for about 2 years now. We post a lot of news items, videos, memes, content for discussion. We have a really good time. We have some activities like movie nights and so on and so forth. So if you like the show, you like hanging out with us, and want to do it other than listening to the podcast, well, come join our Discord. Sign up is free. The app is available in all the app stores, and it's free. You go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Right there on the home page is an invite. You just click on that, and you're automatically in. And we hope you have a good time hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have our fun there.
Mm-hmm. So, we continue Sci-Fi Month. And this should be kind of interesting. This week, we are revisiting 1987's RoboCop. Starring Peter Weller, Nancy Allen, Dan O'Hurley, Ronnie Cox, Miguel Ferreira, Kurtwood Smith. I can keep on and on and on. It's a great cast, and I think it's a pretty fun story. But we can get into that right now. Who wants to discuss RoboCop?
RoboCop. I like this one. I remember watching this one when it came out. I don't know. It's definitely the movie for the next 6 months. I'm going to be everything. I'm going to answer everybody with, I'll buy that for $1.
Oh boy. Lucky us.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Thanks for the warning.
It's stuck in your head.
An announcement that Liz will be taking a 6-month break
hiatus,
from the podcast.
right?
Yes.
For her mental health as well as ours.
Yes.
It's different seeing Red Foreman. I mean, like I said, it's been a while since I've watched this apparently, but when you see Red Foreman in a drug dealer thug position, and it's like, I don't know if I can get into this again. And then he talks about shoving something up somebody's ass, and it's like, there he is. I can watch this. Yeah. There's Red.
This was pre-Red, you know.
Yeah. it was pre a lot of stuff for people in this one. There's a lot of people who later on were like, oh yeah, he was in this, and Baron, I don't know his name right offhand, but he's like the douchebag in like almost every film I've ever seen him in. You know? So he fit the role. Yeah, I liked this one. I don't know. I didn't get some of it. He seemed indestructible in some parts of the movie and then pretty destructible in others. You know? Something that didn't take him out before was creating bullet holes. So that was kind of different. But yeah, like I said, all in all, it was a good movie. Especially, I mean, 87. I liked the robotic effects that they had going on. Yeah, I'd watch it again. I even rented it, so I bought it for $1.
For $1.
Oh, Christ.
You're warned.
Okay. No. This is funny today. After a month, it's not going to be funny anymore.
Right.
Oh, man.
He should have taken the dream more seriously, though.
Care to expound?
Well, they told him when he freaked out and ran out of the building, you know, that's what he's like, you want me to shut this whole thing down because he had a freaking dream? Yes, we do. We have a murderous robot that's rogue right now. Yes. Shut the whole thing down.
But he wasn't murderous. They had that part tightly clamped down.
Well, if they were sitting in the same boardroom as the other guy at the beginning of the movie,
that wasn't RoboCop. That was the other. That was the other thing.
But still, I wouldn't be.
That was the reason why RoboCop was even done, was because Ed 209 wasn't malfunctioned.
He malfunctioned. Did he have a dream right before he malfunctioned?
He wasn't a cyborg.
Yeah.
It wasn't a cyborg. It was a straight up robot.
It was so new, though, that if this thing is getting up and acting on its own, you got to do something. And the tracker was a good ideal, but when you invent something that is hard to kill, you need to have a kill switch. Something at a home base that you can, bam, you're dead. It's gone. It's over. You know, there should have been a kill switch. I mean, I don't know how to describe better than that. When he went rogue, they had
to be able to shut off the power from a distance, for sure.
Yep. They had no idea what he was going to do.
But the deal is, and your point is, I agree wholeheartedly with your point. It is very valid. The deal is, the corporation in this movie was never going to think that way.
Yeah.
That's the deal.
Well, and
that was not the point.
Directive 4 to cover their ass, but not everybody else's.
Right.
You know, which at that point they had no idea who he was going after. He could have went out and started shooting up the subway. You know, malfunction's a malfunction. They didn't stop and analyze anything to figure out what kind of threat he was.
Right. They were not going to stop because they were going to make their money with it now.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a corporation. And if this movie does anything else, or doesn't do anything else, it definitely, I mean, OCP was definitely the evil corporation run rampant. I mean, my whole deal with this movie is I was actually having a really hard time with this movie. I had not actually seen it before because I didn't watch new movies in the late 80s. I avoided them like the plague because everything made me crazy. But so I started watching it this time, last week. And I was like watching it and thinking, man, there's a lot of over the top in this movie. I mean, the corporation, all of the corporate guys are real assholes, and all the cops are real gritty cops trying to do their best and fighting the entire system all the way. And I'm like, man, this is bleak. What is the deal with this movie? And then I because I don't watch movies all at once. In one of my breaks, I was like, it finally dawned on me. I was like, oh wait, this is satire. There's no other reason for everything to be so over the top in this movie, unless they're really aiming for about 7 steps above the top. And I started watching it again, and it all made sense at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's satire. I mean, the whole "I'll buy it for $1." I mean, that fits right into the whole thing.
The one joke. There is literally one joke in the whole movie, and that's it. And you see it like 8 times, which is why it's permanently imprinted in your brain, Liz.
Because it's making fun of just brain dead sitcoms. That it has a catchphrase
that they use multiple times, and and that's the joke for the whole movie. The rest of it is deadly serious all the time, and it never lets up.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it's really good. It does that really well. My concern is if you don't know that's coming, you're gonna think this is complete bullshit.
Yeah. I kind of read that as they were trying to lighten it up because of the ratings at the time. Like, right now, there's 2 different versions of the 87? Because of the X rating, and then one, they pulled back some and probably added some of that kitschy stuff that we saw to kind of pull that rating down so it could get played in the theater.
I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled out some gore too.
Yeah. Oh, definitely they did.
Because there was some. Oh man, I was like, okay, having an accident with the 8209 and that very opening scene that you were talking about. Okay, fine. It pops a cap or 2 into a guy and it gets killed. Oh no. That thing unloaded like 200 rounds into this poor bastard.
Yeah, one or 200. Yeah.
So over the top.
If you watch the director's cut with the original version, there's no extra scenes. There's no nothing. The only thing that they did was at the very beginning of the movie where RoboCop Morgan is killed or Murphy's killed. In the theatrical version, they panned back. You couldn't see. You could see they were shooting him, but you didn't see like the close-up of the arm and all the blood and everything else. So they panned back. There was also probably the scene with the guy in the boardroom, like, we didn't see all of that because they panned it back. So in the director's cut, the only thing you're seeing is a more close-up version of that scene. Because the run times, everything are the same. So that's the only thing you're going to see different is the gore.
Right.
That's about it. It's the gore.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense. I mean, it's pretty brutal when it's brutal.
Yeah. Well, in 87, 90, a lot of, in the comic book world, we had the comic code that they were dealing with, but in movie theaters and that kind of stuff, music, we were dealing with the PMRC also. So movies had a very strict no, I am surprised that when the theatrical version, when they walk into the locker room to give Murphy the new locker of the guy who died, the girls are sitting there changing and their boobies are out. I was surprised that stayed in the theatrical version, honestly. I'm surprised they didn't get pulled out.
That was just a flash.
But it was rated R, yeah.
Probably a bad pun, but that was just for barely a second.
Yeah. But still, like I said, nowadays you could probably still get a G rating out of that.
No, this was R.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a hard R.
It was.
Yeah.
But I'm saying nowadays.
You got a lot of taboo stuff going on here. You got horrendous violence. You've got lots of guns flashing, lots of explosions, some significant drug use.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it kind of did glamorize the crime side for a minute, you know.
Oh, yeah. It sure did. Glamorized a lot of stuff. Just blew it all way out of proportion, which is very 80s.
Yeah.
Which is why it was bugging me at first.
Mm.
And then I realized, oh, we're making fun of it. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, we're doing it in a really dark and loud and explodey way, but we're making fun of it.
Yeah, this definitely checked all the boxes for 80s movie.
And then I realized who directed it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that totally makes sense now. Okay, I'm with you. Yep, because I had not watched RoboCop before, but I had seen Starship Troopers, and it is just as over the top.
Yeah.
With bugs.
Les, your thoughts?
Well, rewatching this, and we're talking about what, The Blob 2? Yes, it was a satire about so many different things, and whatever they wanted to speak about, they did. It was I'm going to say a decent movie. It was, sorry, but it was not one that I would put up for an Academy. Sorry to say, not even the special effects to me were all that much.
Honestly, that's the only thing that did win awards out of this movie.
Which blows my mind. I wouldn't have thought so either.
Yep. I don't know, that little robot toe twitching when he dies, that was cute.
So you found something cute when something dies.
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me?
Did y'all not laugh when his little legs were standing there with no body and then it finally kicked over? Like I said, his little toe went brrr.
I don't think laugh is the word I would use, but yeah, okay.
No.
Cute.
That didn't cross my mind.
But you laughed at it though, right? It wasn't a, ooh. Yeah, that was more.
Not really.
No, see, that would have required an emotional investment in this movie, and I never quite managed that.
Nope, didn't have to get to that point. It was okay. It is not one that I would, definitely not one I would line up to rewatch.
Yeah.
But I can understand why people enjoyed it. So.
Yeah. Now, I do remember liking this better when I was 11. When I watched it the other day.
That makes some sense, too.
But here's a little interesting piece of trivia for you guys. The suit that they had RoboCop in was so big and bulky for him that he couldn't fit inside of the police car. So anytime they show you him in the police car, if he's sitting in the police car, he's sitting there in his underwear. So they made a point to show you in the car, but when he gets out of the car, you'll always see his feet come out first. And it's to give you the impression that he was fully in his suit while he was in the car. So when you rewatch it and you see him in the car, just think to yourself, he's in his underwear, right?
See, even that's over the top.
So you picked this up when you were 11?
No. I rewatched it again on Amazon, and they always do the X-ray and little trivia and, you know, that kind of stuff. So I thought that was interesting.
She was thinking about Peter Weller and his underwear. So
obviously.
Well, it was after they said that.
Right, it's hard not to after they say that.
At the end, he's in a car, and you're like, yeah, he's injured and in his underwear.
I just think the idea of, okay, we're going to make sure we show his feet so that everybody thinks that he's not sitting there in his underwear. I can't think of any more over the top.
But when he had his feet on, of course, the top half was off because he'd have to get out of the car. So it was kind of a whole process to show him in and out of the car. So when he had his feet, they would just film the feet.
Seems
so
like it would be easier to just not show him getting in and out of the car.
Right.
It would not be that hard.
You know how sad boys are. They'd have been like, how did he get in the car? You know, you never showed that.
You get in the car. What difference does it make?
No,
why does a robot have to drive? Why can't he fly?
It's that thinking that
problem.
we got. It's that thinking that we got that footage in the special edition of the Empire, where we had to see Vader leave Cloud City to get to his Star Destroyer. It's like, we didn't need to see that. We've kind of figured it out.
Right.
He was in one place. He's in another place. He got there.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't have to know everything that happens between scenes.
Yes.
That's the deal.
See, something like that made it more believable in some sort of way. Because, I mean,
we talking about Star Wars or are we talking about RoboCop?
Well, RoboCop, yeah.
What does believable have to do with it? We're
You're
talking about a
cyborg.
cyborg cop running around killing bad
Right.
guys. Why? Where's the believable in this?
Right.
Right. Apparently in his underwear.
If in 87, right before they released this movie, if you knew that when you went to the movie, you'd be like, oh, well, he's sitting there in his underwear, right? So it's
They
kind
probably
of,
wouldn't have made that public at that time. But
they didn't. So it was kind of one of those trick you into believing that he could get in and out of his car real easily.
Movie magic, you mean?
Movie magic. There you go.
Right, but
The
you don't
stuff that
have
won
to.
awards. They won awards for him sitting there in his underwear.
I think she's obsessed with Peter Weller in the underwear. Let's be honest about this.
No, but do you know what the most freakiest part of the whole movie is?
Oh God, please tell us.
Christ.
When they take his helmet off, and you see his face kind of like stretched over the metal kind of shit. That was like, ugh. Put it back on. I don't care if it's broke.
That's probably the best special effect in the movie, honestly.
Yeah.
The rest of it's just
Probably.
friggin' explosions and blood packets.
And one other, well, there's a couple of kind of parts that make you think. When he went into the boardroom, you know, at the very end when he's going to arrest the guy, but he can't because he's Directive 4 and everything else. And the owner asked him, he says, well, what proof do you have? And, of course, they have to show you the bloody spike that just killed that guy going into the computer. And he shows him. Now, what he showed him was actually the CD that he left for Baron, which was blown up and burnt, and you couldn't see it. What he should have shown him was what he recorded in the boardroom when he actually told him that he killed him. That would have been the proof that RoboCop would have had. He didn't have that CD. He didn't even know the guy at that point had been
Wait. Back up. The part when RoboCop plays the part where he says he killed Bob Morton.
Yep.
That could not have been on the CD that was played when Bob Morton was killed.
It wasn't. But that was the footage that he showed him was what was on the CD when he killed Bob Morton. What he needed was in the boardroom when he came for him the first time before the shootout at the warehouse and stuff, when he actually told him, I killed him.
That was the part that was played on the version I watched.
Oh, see, in the version I watched, it was actually the tape that he left for Bob Morton, telling him, I had to take you out, and it played over that part over and over and over again. And it was like, that's not the evidence you had. The evidence you had is what he told you, which in a court of law would have held up a lot better than a tape you might have gotten out of a burnt house, which he didn't have time to go to, because at this point, he's laying half dead in a warehouse. So, half dead cyborg, but you know, what is that, 3/4 dead in a warehouse?
Don't turn this into a math problem.
So that was kind of one of those that was like, you know, I wonder if they caught that, if they, you know, that wasn't the footage he should have shown him.
Nah, I don't remember it being that way at all.
And there was another thing, but there was another part of the movie that was kind of like, well, That didn't work. Oh, okay, here we go. From the first scene when he's in the boardroom and he gets the information and he can't kill the guy and he has the fight with the robot. Okay, he goes down to the parking garage. And at first the cops were like, man, we can't kill him. He's one of our own. And they said, yes, but we have directives to take him out, right? And they start shooting and going crazy. Okay, RoboCop gets away from him, and then Lewis comes and picks him up. They start firing at her.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell? What happened to one of our own? I mean, right? Because she is one of them. So, yeah, that was kind of a, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Yeah.
again, satire. Don't overanalyze it.
Right. But that was the two things that kind of, like I said, kind of, I wonder if they knew they did that. Now I'm going to have to go back and watch the boardroom again because I could swear that was the footage he played. Let's see if my 48 hours is up yet.
Yeah, because it ain't worth another $1.
Right. I won't buy that for $1.
Anyway.
So what did you think, Tom?
I get what you're saying. I like the film. It's way over top. I totally agree with you. And that was obviously its intention. It doesn't hold up as well as it did back then. And maybe it's the film, maybe it's me, maybe it's a combination of both. But, great group of actors. I like the cast. And the story.
I love that we get Daniel O'Hurley again so soon.
Oh, God, yes.
I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not a big role for him in this one, but it was still fun.
Well, it's funny because you talk about that, and obviously you're referring to Halloween 3, but he was also in Last Starfighter. He was the alien. Yes, he was the alien co-pilot for Lance Guest's character.
Really? Okay.
Yes, that's him. Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So he's in a couple of 80s classics films.
Pretty good run in the 80s then, didn't he?
Yeah.
Even though he had to put up with Halloween 3.
And of course, Ronnie Cox. This is just a couple of years after Beverly Hills Cop. So I mean, and I didn't even mention Ray Wise as one of the bad guys. I love Ray Wise. He's such a good actor. So, really good cast. The story's all right. Like you said, it's over the top. For what it is, I like it.
I will say that it is not as over the top as the sequel.
Oh, it shouldn't.
I don't know if I've watched the sequel. I keep trying to remember it, but I can't.
And go ahead.
I was going to say that's the one that was written by Frank Miller.
Yeah, I think he wrote 2 and 3. I may be wrong. But, that's seems like something Frank Miller would. RoboCop definitely seems like a story he would write, especially that time period.
Yeah.
Yeah, after seeing this one, I have no interest in the sequels anyway. I don't particularly want to go back to this one either, but this doesn't need a sequel. This absolutely does not need a sequel.
Well, it did. Yeah, story on RoboCop 2 is by Frank Miller.
And it plays out like a comic book.
And RoboCop 3, story by Frank Miller. 3 was crazy. I don't remember. I don't remember 2 at all, but 3 actually had like Rip Torn in it. Believe it or not.
Is he a good guy or a bad guy?
Oh, he's a bad guy. He's part of the company.
Okay.
The company which was bought out by the Japanese. So.
Oh, fun.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll get another dose of Rip Torn soon enough.
Yeah, true. So. Yep. Miller did write 2 and 3, at least the story wise. Not so much the script, but it was his story. But.
Still not interested.
I say I'm scanning the trailers and no, I don't think I'm interested either. First one was good because the time it came out. So, like I said, it probably had more nostalgia for me than storyline.
Well, if you saw it when you were 10, yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine it was an interesting adventure.
Yeah. Definitely different.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Because I think we'll just go ahead and end it right there then. Is this one you would recommend? Or more of a cautious recommend?
At least once. I mean, you have to watch it, you know.
I think if I was going to recommend it, I would warn the person I was recommending.
Yeah.
That not take this seriously in any way.
I definitely liked Max Headstrom better. Do y'all remember him? Same time period?
Max Headroom?
Yeah. That's it, Max Headroom.
That was a very different story.
Yeah.
Mm.
They were both robots.
I do remember Max Headroom. I liked that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have compared it to this, honestly, but I can see where you're coming from. But yeah.
Quirkiness of the time.
Mm-hmm. All right, sci-fi in the late 80s.
Mm-hmm. Before we made the plunge into arcades. Well, we already were there.
Well, we were there. Yeah.
Switched over to arcade movies and stuff.
Yeah, because those always come out so well.
Oh.
But anyway.
Yes. I have to watch it at least once.
Les?
Not even that. I'm sorry. It was fun at the time, but it sure as hell doesn't age with it.
Mm-mm.
Not at all.
So I wouldn't recommend it to much of anybody. Let me think. I know.
No.
Well, there are a couple people I hate. I could tell them to watch it.
Yeah, hey, watch this great documentary from the late 80s. And, yeah.
Usually I try to pull, well, for the time, it set a I can't even say that this put a footprint in the sci-fi world.
No.
It's out there. Didn't they have like a TV show and stuff about this too?
I think there was even an animated series too.
Yeah.
That blows my mind, but whatever.
I mean, come on, it's a cyborg. It looks cool, so it would sell well to the boys.
Right.
Yeah.
It would sell,
it's a robot.
It could sell toys.
Yeah.
I mean, just cut down the violence and over the top and cocaine.
Hell,
and
there was a Rambo animated series. So I mean, why not RoboCop?
Just wow.
Wow. Yeah.
So if Rambo can have an animated series, then I guess RoboCop can too. So.
I guess.
You get a series and you get a series. Yeah, we were good in the 80s. See, we didn't reboot things. We just gave them series.
Oh, yeah, the 80s was definitely the decade of the sequel.
Yeah. You like gummy bear candy? Here's a cartoon about them. Tell me it didn't happen.
Nope. I'm not saying nothing.
At least we were original.
And wait a minute. I think the term was sequel. So how do you get original?
Well,
No,
you get enough cocaine in you, everything sounds original.
right? By the 90s, they blew that brain cell and we're like, whoa, we'll do a sequel, man.
Then wait 10 years and then remake it.
We'll give Care Bears cousins. What the fuck was that? That was the 90s.
I think now we're starting to get as over the top as RoboCop. But
Yeah.
And on that note, I think we need to get out of here.
Good night, everybody.
We're going to take a quick break and be back with our geek news. And we're back, and it's time for Geek News for You, where we pull out a couple of news items to bring to the table and discuss a little bit. And for this week, it is myself and Liz. And Liz, why don't you go ahead?
Well, I don't know if this is like really a newsworthy discussion or anything, but it threw me for a loop because I'm not sure when this happened. But Jensen Ackles was at a con in New York this weekend, and everybody noticed that Jared was not there, and it was kind of like, there's been a lot of beef between these two guys, which they've said, thank God, they have worked through. So anytime one doesn't show up and the other's there, everybody starts to speculate. Oh my God, what's going on now? Well, come to find out, Jared has been in a really, really bad car accident. The way Jensen put it, he's lucky to be alive because he saw the car. Thank God he wasn't driving. He was just a passenger in this, but I mean, that pretty freaky. He could have lost his life pretty easily. I know he's still recovering. There's not a lot out about what had happened, who was at fault, which I'm sure will all come out very soon. But like I said, to me, it was just kind of one of those, oh shit, that's pretty sad, So, yeah. And like I said, they were going to appear together, which is pretty newsworthy in itself.
Among a certain crowd, yeah.
Yeah. But as far as the beef between these guys go, from my understanding, Jensen has directed a couple of episodes on Walker now. I don't think they've aired yet, but even so far as I think he's in one of these episodes. So I, as a fan, would definitely say this has been squashed. I think it was blown up to be bigger than what it was. I think if you don't know, Jensen announced a project that he's working on the prequel of Supernatural. And is that right? Prequel? It happened before?
Yeah. Yes.
And when it was announced, it was kind of, first it was announced by, I believe it's Scott Grimes, who was a writer on Supernatural. I think he's also a writer on The Boys. And he's going to be involved in this project too. Well, he announced it. And then when Jensen saw that he announced it, he went ahead and was like, oh, hey, yeah, look what I'm doing. Well, Jared saw it and was kind of like, what the fuck? Nobody told me this. And the more it was talked about, of course, Jared reacted. He didn't think, he reacted. Like most people do, he's human. But what he didn't realize is that when he reacts, you've got, 5 million people who are following you who are going to react too. So once it was talked about, Jensen was kind of like, hey, yeah, we had talked about this before. And it was kind of like, oh, yeah, well, I didn't know you were actually doing this. So it was talked about. Jensen did not disrespect him. It was squashed and over. But in the fans' eyes, nothing is ever over. You can't. When something's done very public, the makeup needs to happen very public. Are we owed that? No, we're not. We're not owed shit. Supernatural is over. That part of their fandom is as much as they love us, they don't owe us anything. So I if they wanted this to go away, that's what should have happened. He should have publicly apologized, and they should have publicly talked about this to where the fans could have seen there was nothing but love there, you know. So, but yeah, even enough so that he was in a car accident and Jensen knew about it before anybody. I mean, TMZ hasn't even broke the story yet, so. But yeah, as more details come out, I would like to know. I think he is here in Austin recovering, so. Of course, I wish him and his family the best, because it's not just usually the person who's hurting, it's also the people taking care of them that it's stressful on, so. Thoughts and prayers. Like I said, I don't know.
The sniffle was well timed, I'm just saying.
Yes.
It wasn't necessarily related, but it was well timed.
Right. I'm not crying.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
It's dust.
Allergies.
I agree that it's none of our business, and people make it their business far too often.
They do.
And I'm sorry, I didn't give a shit about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I don't care. But it was covered mercilessly.
Right? It's funny you should say shit.
Well, some things make me mad.
Yeah.
And this was one of them. Why did we have to know this? I don't care.
I think what's happening there is something very private was put out in public, and at this point, Johnny has nothing to lose, and he wants it all out there. He wants his story out there, because so far she has spun the narrative and she has told the story. And in those cases,
and she set it up so that if he said anything, he was the asshole.
Yes. And the time where she did this, when she came out with her story about him, was right at the very, very beginning of the Me Too movement. So he was slaughtered. And that's why I feel now he's doing this so publicly, because what she did to him was so public and humiliating. And I think at this point he's like, yeah, people are going to know I throw up on myself at night, but this is my story, and she's no longer going to tell my story for me. And in a case of DV, this is a victim getting their voice back. So that's why I believe it's so public right now.
Well, sorry, but it still
Lester
bores me to
care.
tears, so I don't give a crap.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, I'm one of those weirdos that I enjoy, like, case law and trials and that kind of thing. You know? That's the only
drama.
reason.
Let's be realistic here.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for sure. This has been so much tea. Yeah. And I hate to use the word tea in a situation like this, but if you had a tape recorder going and someone walks into the room, if you pick a fight with them, are you going to make yourself look like the asshole, or are you going to do everything to make them look like the asshole? And that's what all these tapes are. She's got hundreds of hours of tape recordings that she recorded. And it's kind of like, why? Why did you do this? Why? I'm thinking it was a setup from the very beginning. You don't just record you and your husband talking. That's just weird. You know, that's totally weird. And one thing, and I promise I won't talk about this anymore. There was a video that they played in court as evidence, which of course this is all public right now. Anything put in evidence is public, you know. It shows him in a very bad light, of course, but he's slamming cabinet doors. Now, a lot of the YouTubers that I watch that are into case law and stuff, of course, are streaming this and giving their opinions. Well, TMZ came along and struck all of these people on YouTube for playing this video. Why? Amber at the very beginning swore that she didn't sell any of this. And now TMZ's claiming they own that video? Who sold it? Why can they claim copyright on it? That's all I'm saying. She's had some motives from the very get-go. So, yeah. I'm just glad it's coming out. He lost a lot. And she's still making movies, and that's not fair.
Yeah, life's not fair.
No, it's not. So I guess that was 2 news items. My guys are in trouble.
Well, for me, this is kind of news. This is a Variety article. It's more of kind of editorial. Well, I don't know. It's kind of in between. This past week, because it will be done by the time this episode drops, CinemaCon would have been done, and what CinemaCon is, which I did not know until this past week. Apparently, it's been around for 11 years. It's basically kind of a show for the theater, movie theater people, and studios show up and kind of provide, hey, this is what we're going to be coming out with, and that kind of stuff. That's where the announcement of Batman 2 came out. There was some other stuff that's dropped. There's been some footage for the new Flash, Avatar 2, and some other movies that are coming down the road. But this little bit from Variety popped up in my mentions, and I kind of took a look at it, and I thought it was kind of interesting. And some of the stuff that we kind of had talked about before. And the article's title is 5 Burning Questions Facing Movie Theater Businesses as Hollywood Heads to CinemaCon. So this article pops up about 5 questions, basically regarding the future of movie theaters. And I thought it was kind of an interesting read. The first question is, are movies making money? And they're talking about, in the era of post-pandemic, Spider-Man No Way Home made buku money. Yes. Batman made buku money, but some of these others, and they mentioned like No Time to Die and Fast and Furious 9, they didn't generate the type of money that was expected. So that comes kind of pulls in the question, okay, do we need to rethink how a movie is actually making money now in this era of post-pandemic? So I thought that was pretty good. The second question is, and it's funny that this pops up, this happened, this question was posed, will geopolitical tensions hurt Hollywood? And it talks about, mentions Black Widow and issues that Black Widow had, and Spider-Man No Way Home. Of course, this question pops up just as the news broke that Saudi Arabia is banning Doctor Strange 2 from being aired for essentially a 12-second scene. And if you've not heard about this, there is a scene where America Chavez, who's the new superhero that they're introducing, she mentions that she has 2 moms. Based off that, Saudi Arabia says, nope, you're not going to show your movie here.
Oh, wow.
So that's the question, so they're talking about this type of stuff popping up, and obviously with Russia and Ukraine and all that going on, that obviously is going to play a part with movie theaters and how it, how it can go on. So that's an interesting question.
That is.
Third question. This is a dumb one. I will admit this, because it's just like, I'll go ahead and ask the question. The question is, do audience want to watch anything other than comic book movies? And I read that and I was like, oh shit. It's like, was this question asked in the 40s regarding war movies and detective movies or film noir? Was Westerns questioned back in the 50s and 60s?
To be honest, probably.
They may have.
Doesn't the box office kind of answer that question though?
Well, according to listen, there was quote, a new study backs up that notion. The movie ticketing service Fandango recently polled 6,000 ticket buyers. Granted, that's not a big base, but it's 6,000. And 93% of those surveyed indicated they wanted to see films in multiple genres, not just comic book movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you see how you ask the question can make a difference in the answer.
Well, don't even ask the question. Okay, Spider-Man opening weekend, what were the numbers compared to, I don't know, what was the last movie that came out that wasn't a comic book movie? Look at the numbers. The numbers will tell you how many people want to see that kind of movie. So at that point, does it matter?
And believe me, nobody who works at a movie studio who's making these movies gives a rat's ass what these people think.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any difference. They're only interested in the bottom line anyway. So,
yeah.
It's all smoke and mirrors at this point.
There's been a lot of directors who have come out lately. I can think of two right off the top of my head that are like, comic books are killing the movies and da-da-da-da. Dude, get off your ass and make a good movie that people want to see, because right now, this is what's good that's being offered to us. Give me something else I'd want to see besides Spider-Man or Batman or,
Right, and there are always assholes who say this about whatever is the big trend. There were people saying it about zombie movies 10, 15 years ago, too. And, okay, people have opinions. Whatever.
I think that I honestly thought that when this trend started, that it wouldn't last as long as it did, but it has. And, it hasn't been bad, so...
It happens to be a trend that you like, so it's
that's
cool.
in my niche, right? I'm just glad we're not all wearing man buns still. So.
There's still plenty of those out there.
Right, but it's a trend. This will eventually die out. It will,
yeah.
But for in the meantime, I hate to use this term because I hate it so much, but go with it.
Well, and they are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to make what sells.
Yeah,
exactly.
And eventually they'll oversaturate and people will quit watching and they'll move along.
Figure out what else is selling and they'll make a crap ton of that.
Like right now on TV, it's not the comic book shows that are making it, it's Westerns. Westerns are making a comeback. Did you guys ever think that would happen again? But that's what people want to see right now. So in the next year, we are going to get so oversaturated with Westerns. It's a trend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as long as the movie theaters keep up with these trends, then they should be all right. But I don't think they should be blaming comic book movies for damage that was done during the pandemic. And, hell, they were hurting before the pandemic started. Don't blame the kind of movie you're playing.
Right. You play whatever movie puts bums in seats.
Exactly.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
And
shut up and serve
honestly,
popcorn.
you should probably just shut up about it. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Next question, and this is the one that really was kind of intriguing. Do audience want to watch anything? Oh, no, I just did that. I'm sorry. I scrolled down. Just seeing if everybody was paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Will theater owners make nice with streamers?
No. Never. One takes money from the other, and that will never work. Ever. I know I took money from the movie theaters because I waited for Batman to hit HBO first. I never. They will never find a way to coexist. They'll be forced to, but they won't like doing it like they are right now.
Well, it talks about the fact that before the pandemic, there was a agreement that the movies would be in the theaters for about 90 days before they would move to home, whether it's streaming, DVDs, whatever.
Right.
And now it is a 45-day window, and they said the exception is with Universal, which has a 17-day period for smaller titles and 30 days for the blockbusters. And that's not even counting the ones who do same day.
Yeah.
So it's something they've got to address. But there's stuff that's being created, and they talk about this too, is that it's being created for streaming services. But if there's lesser films actually being made for the theaters, that maybe the reverse could happen.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know. At first, I mean, we see Netflix cleaning up at awards now with their TVs and movies and that kind of thing. But at the same time, we read reports Netflix is dying. So I don't know if that's necessarily the answer either. I think what's going to happen, I pull out my little crystal ball here. HBO, Showtime, Paramount, all of them are doing so well with their streaming service. After a while, they're going to be like, why the hell is it up to us to keep a movie theater open? When did that become our problem? People are, I hate to say Zack Snyder and the latest Batman proved, people will come over here and watch this. And they've seen the surges, the sign-ups and everything else. So if they could make money without the movie theater, why is it their job to keep them open? Why does it matter if I want to make 10 Superman movies? Oh, you're going to cry? Fine. Cut you out. It's on my streaming service now. Who's crying now? I don't know. I think it's pretty bold of them to even try to come up with that kind of agreement of, well, we get it first. Well, why don't you shell out the freaking $20 million I'm making this movie with, and then you can have a say in this? But you're going to bitch about how you make money off me?
It's desperation.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And in the business world, that's viewed as weak, and what happens to the weakest link?
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
And it's on its way. I mean,
you
you might hang on to a handful of independent theaters that can charge enough and somehow turn enough of a profit to stay open.
Yeah.
But and honestly, when you get to that point, the studios won't care anymore, so they'll go ahead and let them do what they want.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, this discussion
it's mostly just nostalgia because honestly,
it
all stems back from the days when the studios owned all the theaters.
Yeah.
And then the government came in and made them sell them, and it's all downhill from there.
Well, when you go through... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
This discussion actually leads into the fifth question, which I'm now able to tell. How many screens will be lost in the wake of the pandemic? Now, according to this, only 2% of the screens had closed with the onset of COVID-19. But from what this one gentleman, Barry Diller, who actually ran Paramount and Fox at one time, predicts that only 10% will eventually survive. And it's based off what y'all are saying. the demand of the streaming services and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well,
I mean, that's something that's going to have to be addressed.
And I won't say this is, well, it is because it's a side effect of the pandemic. During the pandemic, we found out we can do this a different way. We can still watch movies. We can still be safe at home. And yes, we're not wearing masks and taking tests every week, but the threat is still out there. And there's a lot of people who they found they can do without those kind of things. I don't need to go see a movie. I need to eat, but I don't need to go see a movie. And that's easier to say, when you go to a movie, you're paying for the experience, not necessarily, it's entertainment. It's, people have found there's other ways to get that experience, and I don't have to go and sit with 50 people to do that, like right now.
But it's not the same. It's not the same.
You're
thing.
saying that, but there are also a lot of people who really have been jonesing for that experience for some reason.
Yes.
I don't agree with them, but they are out there, and there is a large number of them.
And that's why they said there'll still be those few that stick around, because people will still pay for that experience. I mean, we pay for theme parks and all this other kind of crap. People will still pay for that experience, but there's other people like me and you who said, we can get that experience the way we liked it better, And they know, and kind of like right now, we're paying $5 a gallon in gas. Do you think gas prices will ever go down? No, because they know we'll pay it. It's the same thing with movies. Will people go back? I don't think so, because we know we can do it a different way, and we've been doing it. So why would it change? Especially when they're finding out that they're making just as much money on their streaming service as they did opening weekend, And we didn't have to pay for advertising and all this other shit.
Right, and the money's coming directly to them as opposed to them having to share it with Cinemark or AMC or any of those folks.
Yep. Go buy your own popcorn. So I think it will have an impact, but I don't think it's for the reasons they think it is.
I don't know if we're going to get all the way down to 10% either.
Yeah.
I would have conservatively said 30.
Yeah.
And it'll probably take 20 years to get there.
Yep. Yeah. But I do think these big theaters like Firewheel and Mesquite 30, I think those will be like when Walmart tried to do the hypermart thing, and then they're like, people like the smaller grocery stores, and they started doing the neighborhood market. That's what the movie theaters will do. If they want to make it, they'll have to scale back.
Yeah, the big chains will go away, where something like Alamo, who offers an experience, a different experience, I think those would survive. And that's that. And you talk about it's man, I got to tell you, when I saw Avengers Endgame, it had been out for like a week or so. I was in a theater with about 2 or 3 people. And it's so different than watching, and then I watched the YouTube videos of the reaction, and there's a full crowd, and everybody's cheering and excited and that kind of stuff. I kind of miss that. Yeah. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get that when you're at home by yourself eating popcorn watching a movie. Now, you're not going to get that with every film.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I just said it, so obviously I get that. But man, some of those experiences, even if it's not opening day, but just being with a crowd that's not seen before, that way y'all kind of, it's kind of a shared experience. You're not going to get that at home by yourself. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying,
if that's what you're in it for, then that's going away.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
and that sucks.
And I hate to be that one person, but I feel post-pandemic, I don't know if you would get that anymore. People hate being around people right now. I mean,
Well, because people aren't assholes. That's why.
Right. It's like the whole attitude of people have shifted. You walk into a store and it's almost like, God, you're afraid someone's going to rip your head off because everybody's so on edge here lately. I don't know if you can get that warm experience anymore. I mean,
you're biased.
That's the introvert in me. But, it's people don't enjoy people anymore.
Yeah, some of us never did, but that's beside the point.
Right, but even more so now. There's more of us. We multiplied. But yeah, I mean, like I said, maybe it's just, I don't know. Maybe because I am introvert and anxious when I go out, I feel that way with people around me, but the general impression that I'm getting is people don't want to be around people right now. They're really getting on each other's nerves.
They think they do, but they really don't, and they're maybe not with it enough to realize that. They're not self-reflective enough to get it.
They were locked up so long they forgot what manners were.
Some people didn't have that before.
Right. I think we could argue down that rabbit hole for a while, but
right.
I don't really see the point.
Yeah.
Les, your thoughts?
The theaters aren't all that packed right now, so I enjoy going. I think it's still it's still something that you want to do.
Yeah.
And I have no problem going to a theater at all. I think it's next to a necessity because of the camaraderie. And if someone were to contact me right now and say, let's go to the movies, it would have to be a big reason for me not to go. I just enjoy them that much.
Yeah.
That was me as a kid.
Yeah.
So let's just continue the process.
My problem personally is there's movies out there that I'm interested, but I don't have that excitement to go see it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It would have to be a very special movie for me to go and actually see it.
There's some that I'm very interested in. I mean, hell, I hadn't seen the Batman. I may never see the Batman. I don't know, but it sounds interesting. I'm interested in all that, but I just don't have that burning desire. It's not even, and it may sound kind of hypocritical considering what I was just saying a while ago about the experience, but that's kind of the way I am right now. I can't explain it. I'd love to be part of that experience, but I'm not. There's just not anything out there that goes, yeah. I need to go see it.
Yeah. Let's see if Endgame was happening during this time. That would be one that I would have left the house to go see. But I've also invested how many years in movies before that one? So it would have to be a very special movie for me to want that experience again.
Well, y'all guys know that I'm a big Halloween fan. I don't know, we got the last one coming out this year.
Yeah.
Right now, I can't tell you whether or not. I don't care if a trailer drops tomorrow. I can't tell you if I'm going, yeah, that's going to get me in the theater. As much as I love that franchise, that's just the way I am right now. And there may be other people like me out there. I don't know.
Now, will that one hit streaming too, or
they haven't said one way or the other?
Right.
Oh. Yeah.
They'll let us know when it's time.
Considering how well it went last time, I could see them doing that.
Yeah. Although, with Spider-Man and Batman doing the duel, they were the first two big movies to come out and do that wait period. And I don't know, I think it was pretty successful. So we might, I don't know.
It's
I would like to see the breakdown of. I don't know if me watching Batman on HBO helped them because I'm already a subscriber, so they didn't really gain money from me watching the movie.
They have ways
that they
of
wouldn't have
tracking that.
already.
But
They have
they
ways of
know
figuring it
they
out.
know you watched it.
Yeah.
You
So I
you
don't
were
know
part
how
of that
they make money
4.1
off
million.
of that.
Yeah. Well,
Because HBO doesn't advertise, so they're not making money off me in that sense. So I don't know how they make their money off of that.
but they didn't.
They have
They
ways.
may not have gained money, but they certainly didn't lose any money.
Yeah. And they did gain a view because I wouldn't have went to the movies and watched that.
Yeah.
Well, is this going to be shown with Doctor Strange coming out?
Oh, yeah.
Are you asking whether it's going to be streamed as well as be in theaters?
No, it'll be streamed, but it's not at the same time. I know that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I'm not
Disney
sure I
ain't
understand
gonna
the
do
question.
that.
Well,
I think it's supposed to follow the same path that Spider-Man did, although it's
Yeah.
not the same productions people, but I think it's supposed to hit the movies and then 45 days later,
Yeah.
I think it hits pay-per-view, and then it'll hit its homes like 10 days after that or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, because
Whatever the current
Batman
model is.
Batman was offered on HBO the same day they offered it on pay-per-view. So I guess it just depends on...
Technically, a streaming service these days is pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But see, Spider-Man, you could only buy the movie or pay-per-view it before it hits... actually, it's not even Disney it's hitting. It's Stars that it's going to first.
Stars has probably got a different setup somehow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's Sony, so I mean.
Yeah. And a lot of these people are running into, like, HBO may own it, but they had an agreement with Paramount over here, so they can't even have their own movie till Paramount gets done with. I'm just saying those two names until they get done streaming it, and then they can. So some of them are grandfathered in like that, which would probably be like Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, X-Men, where there's other contractual obligations before they get theirs.
Yeah, the comic book movies are a tangled mess,
Yeah.
basically.
Well,
Yeah.
I know that Spider-Man hasn't shown up on streaming channel yet.
Not yet. Stars, as of today, or of this week, Stars has just started adding, not the last Spider-Man, but the one before that. What was it? Homecoming?
Yeah.
They've just started offering that, and then I think it's I think it's next week they'll start offering the new version. So Stars will get the newest one first, but they're breaking in the one before it first. So it's almost there.
Well, I've seen that one.
I've seen clips on, when they're talking about it, and it's like, I want to say I watched that, but I can't say that I watched it. So I may have to watch it again to make sure I've watched it. But I haven't seen the new one. And I'm more excited about this Doctor Strange coming out because, not with popular opinion, but I loved the first one. I'm a very visual person, and some of the visuals they had in that was like, whoa. Am I smoking? I mean, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I like the visuals.
Yeah, which made up for the story.
Well, it's not so much the story, but yeah, I understand that. The joking around Stephen Strange was a little too much. Always having a smart ass comment. That
Yeah.
It's like that's. I hate to open up this Pandora's box, but it's just like that's not Stephen Strange. But
Yeah.
But
I don't
that's
know.
just me.
I don't know a lot about Marvel comics. Not that I'm a Marvel snob, but nothing ever appealed to me on that. So I think that's why I've enjoyed the MCU so much, is because I don't know shit about their comics, you know.
And maybe they toned that down a little bit. I'm not one of those that really hates the humor that's been thrown in to the last several Marvel movies. I know there's people out there. It's in the right time and the right place. It can work really well.
Right.
But
I think it worked for Iron Man, and they tried to force it with everyone else.
Well, see, I mean, and I hate to sound like a snob, but you know, when I've read Iron Man before, I mean, he was literally like a Bruce Wayne clone, except for instead of putting on a suit with bat eaters, he's putting on armor. It just, there wasn't really the jokes and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it works so well, and credit Robert for doing it, that they've changed the character to kind of fit the way Downey portrayed him.
Yeah.
That there's a little bit more of a swagger, the smart ass, that kind of stuff. And you know what? I'm okay, because that actually makes him a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
Instead of just being the bland, you know.
Well, wasn't he like an alcoholic and a drug addict and everything else
He
too?
was Stark. Yes,
yeah.
He was an alcoholic. That was a pretty major storyline. That's why he gave up the armor to Rhodey. He could not be Iron Man.
See, I think Iron Man was both Iron Man and Robert's redemption story. That's why he did it so well.
Well, the alcohol story in the comics was like early to mid '80s too. So I mean, it's a long time ago.
I remember they redid classic comic book covers, and one of his, it was pretty nice. It was like a whiskey glass, and like his armor was like off in the bag. I would love to have that cover, but that's the only way I remember that he was an alcoholic, was the cover. They redid the cover.
Well, I mean, there's the one with him staring in the mirror, and you've got the whiskey bottle or something right there by the side. That's almost as imitated as, you know, the X-Men Days of Future Past, with all with the wanted sign on the wall, where all the characters have either been murdered or been captured. I mean, that's been homaged millions of times. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Alrighty. So, any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
No.
Can't think.
All right, we will go ahead and go to our regular shout-outs. First off, I want to thank Pop Goes the Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be a part of a great group of fellow podcasts. Definitely check them out. There will be a link in our show notes. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who make up Potter Family, who've been so kind as to spread the word of the fellowship by retweeting our links. Definitely check them out. And the best way to do that is to go to Twitter and do a search, #PotterFamily, and just scroll through whatever catches your eye. Click on that link and download that episode, and hope you have a good time listening to them. Want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. There will be a link in the show notes where you can check out their fine music. Thank you guys, as always. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. Any questions, complaints, suggestions, observations, what have you, please send them our way. Our email is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website, go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out there. You can join our Discord. We do have a channel specifically for feedback. You can post your comments there. On social media, we are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. Obviously, we're on Twitter, @Fellowship Geeks. Feel free to follow us there. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. Les can be found, or maybe not found, who knows, @FakeLesWebster. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And while you're downloading our episode, if you take a couple moments to rate and review the show, it would be greatly appreciated. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We do appreciate your support as always. Until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,